Shall we play a game?
We got Star Wars Unlimited. We got classic Star Wars games. We got old school D&D, independent RPGs, mini painting, Warhammer, of course, tons of other games. But first, we're gonna need some coffee here on Board Barista Productions. Hey everybody, I'm Fen. I'm your Board Barista. This is Retro Reviews, a review show where we go through my copious amounts of gaming books and other paraphernalia for tabletop games, RPGs, miniatures, one at a time. And to join me in the Ramble Fest, we have Tanya.
Hey. I don't think my microphone picked that up. Okay, now it does. It's being funky weird.
You got some weather over there, so internet. I got weather going weird here. The downside of us being on, 2,000 miles apart while we're recording these shows.
Yes.
Be a heck of a lot better if if it was the whole thing. I was living in Bangor and I could just drive up once a week and be like, okay, we'll sit at the table, put the camera on the other side of the room, put some good lighting up, and hammer through a stack like me and Laura used to do when we first started this channel. But hey, she's taking care of the little one, so she had to retire from the channel. I'm trying to talk her back into doing some recipe roulettes again, but we just need to find time. So if anybody out there is a longtime viewer of the channel, no, recipe roulettes are not fully dead yet. There's still hope. There's still that glimmer of hope. But tonight we're talking about the Star Wars Instant Adventures for the Star Wars West End Games role-playing game. Much like most of my entire collection of these books, this was bought at B. Dalton Bookseller. Picked this out with the help of my good buddy Ken Oliver. Miss you, Ken. Yeah, so this book is 9 one-shot adventures and 32. Stack them over here up to the side. And these are actually from one of the other things. There's 32 game cards. They all got like artwork on one side, and then there's rules sections on the back. So if you're playing the game, you can, instead of having to flip back and forth through all the pages, you can just grab the card for the corresponding character or ship or vehicle or game handout and have the references on the back right there at your disposal. This is actually the technique that got me interested in keeping index cards as part of my gaming materials. I like, being able to fill out an index card, maybe do a quick sketch on the back, and then hand the index card out to players when handing out treasure or some sort of item they pick up. Then giving them if you get the postcard size card pages for like people who collect that type of stuff, or the money size ones, you can there's something that will fit the card that you got. You can actually create so you put your character sheet in a clear 1-page portfolio piece, and you get like one of those cheap 3-ring paper binders. It's got like the claps in it. You put your character sheet in there, put a couple of those pockets in, and then you can start collecting your index cards. Do that with your spells as well. And you have like your character book to actually bring to the table. I did that for my old Pathfinder game I ran before I moved down here with some of the guys up in Holton. I made them all those kind of binders for their characters, their spells, their magical items, all inspired by having these handy dandy little cards that came in the back of this book. But in this book, we have the first adventure is the Argovia Strike. So the rebels are sent to destroy an Imperial sensor complex to allow a rebel convoy to slip past with supplies. The next one is Agent Nalok is missing. Rebel agent is missing, and the rebels sent to find her are set up and have to escape and rescue the agent. We got heavy lifting. Players are hired by hired to smuggle a hut off planet before it's captured by mercenaries and bounty hunters. So yeah, it's not all just rebel adventures. Into the heat of battle. So the party's ship has been hijacked, and they are dumped out in an escape pod to a jungle planet crawling with Imperials who have their ship impounded. So it's basically like pirates show up, they take the ship, throw everybody into the escape pod, jettison the escape pod. Just as the pirates are about ready to leave, the Imperials show up, capture the ship, put it down on the planet. So it's like, yeah, you lost your ship, but don't worry, you're not stranded. You can get it back.
Yeah.
Yeah, next adventure is called Family Problems. The party is hired to rescue an alien's girlfriend whose father doesn't approve so that can run off together, which is funny because there's actually an episode of The Mandalorian that plays kind of like that, where instead of the Mandalorians being hired to help rescue the girlfriend to get her to be able to run away, she's already run away, so they have to go and bring her back. When I saw that episode, I automatically thought of this adventure and was just like, oh my God. But then again, I knew Filoni had referenced these source materials in his early days at Lucasfilm. So I'm like, always looking for some Easter eggs from the old Star Wars role-playing game to show up in his shows. Next adventure is called Meltdown. Rebel players need to get vital supplies, basically coolant valves, to the base before the base overheats and blows up. So they need to read and steal it from an Imperial supply station and get back, basically before the base becomes a fireball. So it's a little ticking clock adventure. And the next one is why we have waited so long to review this book. This was actually your guys' first adventure. New recruits and rebel guns. Party are new recruits being smuggled to a rebel base to join up. Then the Imperials show up, and now they're being chased across the planet to a waiting transport. If you've watched episode 2 and 3 of Spandex Squadron, and the Spandex Squadron playlist will be at the end of this video, like it always is on the end of all these Star Wars reviews. Episodes 2 and 3 of Spandex Squadron are this adventure. I did change a few things in it to be able to fit it into the campaign, because of course, if you're running this as part of your regular game, there's going to be some times where you're going to have to shoehorn, adjust things, fudge a few things, and change it. Because, unless you're just running these as just like, oh, we're just going to make a bunch of characters and play something and wait until some adventure sticks and everybody's like, I want to play this group again. But new recruits and rebel guns. It's my favorite one in the book because there's just this really cool artwork. I'll bring it up here on screen of this rebel in a crate just blasting a stormtrooper right in the chest. And we ended up almost reenacting that, but the shot was a bit higher with the whole gambler blowing the face off of the stormtrooper. So I was just like, I would love the fact that he recreated that without even knowing that artwork. And I'm just like, chef's kiss. I love it when Flair actions mirror something cool like that. So I'm just like, yes. The next adventure is the Treasures of Celis Mott. Pirate treasure hunt. Avoid pirates, follow clues, get the treasure. Which is part of why I love the Skeleton Crew TV series. That was so cool because that show is got to be probably, other than like season 2 of The Mandalorian. Now, I'm actually going to say I actually like Skeleton Crew more than I like Mandalorian. Even Mando season 2. Like, Skeleton Crew just felt like, because I'm a kid who basically, grew up reading the Star Wars novels, reading the Young Jedi Knight series about, Han and Leia's kids and these other, teen Jedi Knights doing crazy stuff. So this idea of a bunch of teenagers getting into a spaceship and flying off and having crazy adventures really jammed with me. The Ewoks Battle for Endor, before we got like episodes 1 through 3, if you wanted to watch a Star Wars movie and you didn't want to watch A New Hope, Return of the Jedi, or The Empire Strikes Back, your only option, because Caravan of Courage is pretty kids movie, but Ewoks Battle for Endor, the sequel to Caravan of Courage, is just so good. And I know probably people are going to be like, that movie was horrible, Mike. You got to think about it. When you're 8, 9 years old and you love Ewoks, and there's Ewoks, and there's a space witch, and there's blaster fights, and there's the guy that likes to sell me oatmeal and talk about diabetes as being like an old pilot hero, you kind of like, ooh, this is cool. So, are you looking up Ewoks Battle for Endor?
Yeah, because I remember watching it.
It's on Disney. It's on Disney. It's on Disney Plus. Like it's.
Yeah, but I forgot. I think it was my uncle. He would come and hijack us kids for the weekend. I ended up watching Star Wars with him. This was in the 90s, because I was a year old when this came out.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm a little bit of a baby. But Ewoks were always my favorite. I remember there was a cartoon. I remember there was more movies with Ewoks in it. And then so I kind of forgot there was more than just the first 3 Star Wars films, because my uncle would just throw something in. I thought it was a continuation of the Star Wars movies.
No, they were made for TV movies to cash in to get kids who loved the Ewoks, and they're just like, here you go. Here's some more Star Wars teddy bears, and it's just like, Star Wars teddy bears. So I got so much flack from so many Star Wars fans over the years when they're all like, oh, it sucks they'll never do 7, 8, and 9. I'm like, well, they did 7 and 8. And they're like, what are you talking about? There's no 7 and 8. And I'm like, Caravan of Courage, Battle for Endor. They're like, the Ewoks movies don't count. And I'm like, they're still Star Wars.
They do. They count. And I can't believe Warwick Davis wasn't. Wow. He
played Wicket. He played Wicket in both of those movies. It was great. It was always up in the air, but when it had to be after Return of the Jedi that those movies take place. So it's just like there's like a speculation of how long, because like it's never really said whether or not like Walter Brimley's character was a rebel who got left behind on Endor after the battle, and that was always how it was going to be in my headcanon. And I figured like the parents were like, one of them had to be like a history buff that wanted to go see Endor, like where the Empire fell kind of thing. And that's why they went there. I cannot remember the plot to the beginning of Caravan of Courage. It has been, let's see, last time I rented that movie from the video store had to be like 96, 97. So it's been almost 30 years since the last time I watched Caravan of Courage. But I had my own copy of Battle for Endor, so I got that movie like memorized.
Yeah.
Plus, it was my favorite out of the two. So
I know I'm binging.
I actually need to find my VHS copy, because my VHS copy is not a legit VHS copy. Because every year when they would do like the free movie week on like the Disney Channel on cable, my grandmother had cable. We didn't have cable. So whenever there was the free Disney weekend, I would just take a stack of VHS tapes down to my grandmother's house, and I'd pop the tape in there. I'd get the 8-hour long play tapes. I'd pop that tape in there. I'd press play as soon as the movie started, and I'd just come back the next day and pick up the tape. Yeah. I did that for the HBO free weekend, and I also did it with TNT's Monster Quest, Monster Vision. So I actually have like an episode, like a bunch of old sci-fi movies that are all on VHS tape, and then I've got the Battle for Endor tape because I knocked the little square out of the VHS tape so it couldn't get recorded over when I got a good batch. And the Ewoks Battle for Endor is on the same cassette as Spaced Invaders, the one where the Martians hear the War of the Worlds broadcast, and they decide, "Whoa, we're attacking Earth, we gotta go!" And then they get up and they're crazy. Yeah. What was the other movie that's on that? There's like, I know there's those two, and then there's some other movies, and there's like some ads for some like crazy movies. I was like, I always wanted to see that, so I gotta find the tape so I can be like, okay, let's find some crazy 80s 90s direct to VHS movies to watch. Okay, see, you're here for the tangents. That's what everybody comes for. Last adventure in the book is the Operation Shadow Strike. Mission to rescue a downed Y-Wing pilot behind Imperial lines. Calls for at least 6 dice in blaster, dodge, search, and sneak skills. This is one of the adventures that are actually like, okay, these skills are going to be really important. Make sure that the people in the group all have at least 6 dice in these 4 skills. Because if you don't, it's probably not going to run all that well, which is a great like tip to have in your D&D adventure. In like your adventures are like, everybody needs to have this stuff, or somebody has to have this, or else it's not going to work out all right. And some D&D adventures I've seen are all like, yeah, try not to let anybody play a cleric, because if they do, then this module goes from being like challenging for the party level, or you just want to drop everybody down to be like it's a 5th level adventure, but if you got a cleric, it's a 2nd level adventure, because the cleric's just gonna be like, turn undead, turn undead, turn undead. No. But and you know, each of the adventures has a paragraph of ways that it can be led into a campaign. You know, some ideas to get your brain to use these as being like your jumping off point. And like I said earlier, like if one of these sticks, like I like doing one shots, because at a certain point when you're playing one shot after one shot after one shot, there ends up being that one where it's like everybody's kind of like, hey, that one you were in last week, can we continue that one? And you're like, okay, I got an idea how we can go with this. Which when I get ready to start putting my own role-playing game out there, that's one of my big pieces of advice to the DM is have a bunch of like these instant adventures, little, quick one shot. You're just playing through this story arc. And if everybody goes, hey, can we go back and redo this? Then you found your campaign. Because, having somebody sit down, and I think it's probably some of the times like the issue we're seeing with like Josh as DM, it's not Josh's DMing style. Josh knows how to make it interesting. The problem is that the characters don't really gel together as a group. Like we all had these crazy ideas, but there's no glue. There's no like no homogenizing spice blend that mixes everything together to make us be an adventuring party. So it's much easier for us to just do like Josh's crazy game idea and then be like, yeah, I want to play something different. And then also much more open for somebody to be like, I'm not really invest in this. I'm not going to, I can skip this week, because I feel like that's kind of happened a bit with Star Wars, because it's very like, I kind of set up the premise, but there's no, like for a few people, there's not a lot of like real investment in the storyline other than just being like, I get to blow stuff up. And understandably, for some of you, getting to blow stuff up is like, hey, I'll go blow some stuff up this week. But it'd be kind of cool if we all had like more backstory and more glue, which is something, there's a book that I'm bringing to Maine when I come up that I should be done with and able to hand over the book to you and Josh and just be like, read this, make sure you look at the highlighted sections that I highlighted. And when we do a session 0, we're going to do session 0s a bit differently. from here on out. Next time I'm going to make up a worksheet, and I have plans. But if you don't have plans, you don't do it in session 0. You can just dive in with a one-shot adventure. Some published quick plays are awesome. So getting back to this, all the adventures are cool ideas, and they're very sandboxy in nature. There's not a lot of railroading. There's a lot of like, here's the stuff. The players do this, then we can go on to the next thing. They give you the scene, the outline of a scene, the maps, the NPCs, and other stats. But it's not as structured as like a traditional dungeon dwelling adventure where it's like you start in room 1 and you go to room 2, then you can go to room 3 or you can go to room 4, and then you branch off and explore. It's very much a whole thing of like, sometimes you need to give the players a little bit of a nudge with the elbow to be like, you should go check this out over here.
That's what Jackson should have done when he was running his D&D the first round.
Yeah.
He was kind of getting disheartened, of course, being a 7-year-old, because we weren't exploring. Come find out there was a lot more traps that we could have actually lost our lives with. But we weren't exploring.
Also,
we were just, there's the door. Okay. Let's go.
So the book, it might actually be worth it for you guys to have a copy up there too. All right. The book is called So You Want to Be a Dungeon Master.
Yeah.
Okay. Buy a copy of that book. I think it's like 25, 28, but it's worth it. Wait, is it So You Want to Be a Dungeon Master, or is it the other one? So there's 2 of them. So there's So You Want to Be a Dungeon Master has all sorts of advice on how to run the games. The other one is the Game Master's Guide to Proactive Role Playing. Okay. I think
no, I don't have that one. That was a suggestion.
It's more than a suggestion. For the proactive role-playing game, I think if you're having the problem that we're having with not getting everybody really bought into the story, the Game Master's Guide to Proactive Role-Playing is such a tool, because a lot of like mine and Josh's generation of Dungeon Masters, the whole thing of like, we've come up with the whole plot and how we plan this adventure to go. We have A, B, C, D, E, F, and we have like an outline of like, we're going to go through these things and we're going to try to keep everything going towards this end big epic battle that we want to play out. The Guide to Proactive Role Playing is all about, basically, before you sit down, the players kind of like, you Mad Lib the adventure a little bit. So it's the whole thing of like asking the player, it's like, who's some of the big bads in your backstory. Like the worksheet that I plan on using, that I'm adapting from this, is I'm going to ask everybody like to name 5 different NPCs. Okay. You got to have oh, great, it's you guys characters. Like basically like Bulk and Skull from the Power Rangers, or Team Rocket from Pokemon. These annoying people who keep showing up and getting in your way and constantly just an annoying threat. Sometimes most of the time they're working against you. Sometimes they work with you, but they're not really a threat so much as they're just annoying. Then you have your rival. Like, who is the person who's always showing you up, who's always like been better than you, and is just your drive to be like, I want to make that person like be second place for once. Then you have the shadowy organization, like for console, it was Jabba the Hutt and his criminal empire, or some sort of like shady group that's really big that you possibly owe some favors to, and they might show up to be like, hey, we're here to collect. Then you need to have the like evil corporation or government that's like, yeah, they don't like me at all, and they're probably either going to try to capture me, imprison me, or kill me for some nefarious reason. Like it's the whole thing of like, it's a big organization. It's not an individual person. It's this whole thing of like, so like the criminal one is more of like a shady person in your backstory that you owe something to, like a favor, money, something like that. And then you have the big organization that is like you've gone up against, and they are off doing nefarious things, and you need to they'll show up and they have lots of resources and lots of money, and you don't have those things, so it's like, uh-oh. Then you have the the beast, which is a big scary monster, like your own personal, like, it's a big scary monster. I know of this thing. I have nightmares of this thing. I may have encountered it, or it may be from like where I'm from. It's usually around there. But yeah, no, I somebody says, like, gives me the clues. I'm like, oh, it's one of those. No. And then you have the big bad evil guy, which is basically the actual big bad villain in your backstory. The guy, like for Conan the Barbarian, it was the guy. It was Doom, the guy who killed his parents in front of him when he was a baby, and he's like, I'm going to hunt this man down and kill him for killing my father and my mother, kind of character. So, and working and finding ways to work those in, like the progressive role playing, like has you try to make a list of those type of things, work those in, like when the DM's sitting there scripting out their adventure, they're like, okay, I'm gonna take this NPC from this person's backstory, I'll plug it in here. I'll take this this organization from this character's backstory, I'll have them be the, and you go through the campaign, and the job is to tick off all of these adversaries and be like, kick their ass, kick their ass, kick their ass. That way the player's like, I got my personal goals that I want to complete through this. Here's my personal goals, make it happen. The DM's just like, I can work with this. I can work this into my big overarching story. That way the DM doesn't know everything. The players know everything as well, but the DM gets the whole thing, like, here's the stats, here's the magical gear, here's how I'm going to introduce it, this is what they're working on. Gets basically, you're handing like a bunch of semi-blank character sheets to the DM for them to use in their game and be like, ooh, okay, this is what my players want to face. All right, where can I throw these things in and make this game like a collaborative storytelling? Which is lacking in published adventures, but if you do the background work, you can find that stuff. So that's my rant. And that's why if you do like pre-printed quick adventures and stuff like that, if you are a DM who has that information, has sat down and had the players work through a backstory, not having them write up like, full like 5-page backstory kind of thing. It's just a sheet of paper where you're just writing down some names and a little bit about everything, like 3 sentences for 5 different NPCs. It's enough that the DM has an idea of what the player's thinking, and then they can run with it. And the player can just sit there and make up stuff as the DM needs information filled out. And being able to plug that into, so definitely if you're using stuff like this, do some prep work on these adventures and make them your own, is basically where I was going with that, which is what happened with episodes 2 and 3 of Spandex Squadron. Thoughts, comments, concerns?
None here.
All right.
I enjoy these ramblings. It gives me a lot more information.
I'm glad that it's, because it's kind of the point of the rambles, to dive off into the weeds, give me some ideas, because sitting here, like, I've been doing retro reviews for like 3 years. There's 3 years. I sat down and did the math. There's like almost like 40 hours worth of content, just me talking about retro gaming books, just here on the channel. And as I kept working through all these things, the things that I liked, the things that I didn't like, stuff I'm learning from other books that I've been picking up recently, I'm like, it's time to design my own game and kind of like walk players through it. And I'm like, I think the next time I sit behind the DM screen, once we get done with the Star Wars game, I think it's probably going to be the best campaign I ever run. And just because I'm working through designing my own game, and we're going to play my own game as the next time I DM. Next system I run is going to be Flip, and I need to get to work on that. I got almost everything I need to give to everybody, so we'll have copies soon, but yeah. I got some ideas, and I think everybody's going to probably really enjoy the new version of my evolution of being a DM. So, all right, that's all we got for this week. Peace.
Peace.
All right. All right. One more. And then.
Yeah, my neck's killing me.
All right. I'm going to do one that wasn't on the list. That way we'll get it out of the way.
Okay.
Tatooine Manhunt in 3. Oh, you ready? This is going to be in the adventure section.
Okay.
All right.
Hey everybody, thanks for staying till the end of the episode. Remember to like, share, subscribe. Follow us on Facebook at Board Barista Productions. And if you want to support us, Patreon link at the bottom.